Guys, welcome back. In the last tutorial, we were able to set up our products. Now we have a situation whereby our admin can see the list of products, add new products, and also fetch products. We were also able to handle the process whereby admin can update products, delete products, and also a situation whereby we could see products in our home page, which is what is going on in this our products.jss. In today's video, we will focus on setting up the cart, having a situation whereby we can add products to our cart, increase, decrease, clear cart, remove product. Now, we have already set up the models for our cart, the last tutorial when we were setting up our models for products. This is our models for cart, and I explained the purpose of having this cart set up as a model in our database is for us to be able to have a situation whereby even if you log out and you have a session cleared or expired, you will still have access to your carts whenever you log in back to your account. That is the purpose of why I am creating this carts model. And we also went ahead to set up the serializer for our cart when we were setting up the one for product. With this setup out of the way, the next thing that is remaining for us to set up in our backend for cart is the cart view and also the endpoints for our cart. Without wasting time, let's quickly set that up. I'm going to come down below here and set up the class for our cart. Now, before we continue, there is something I would like to do. What I want to do here is called signal. So what is a signal? Signal is a kind of setup that allows us to handle a situation for user without the user doing anything. So what do I mean? Let me break this down. In our current situation for a cart, right? I want to set up a signal that opens up a cart for a user whenever a new user is created in our database. This means that once you sign up in our platform, automatically a cart will be created for you. We are going to set up one, then we'll use it to open carts default for users whenever they sign up in our account. And to do that, we are going to come inside this our app API here and create a signals.py. And inside the signals.py, I will import the signals post save, which is the one that automatically saves. Then I will also import the cart model. Then I will also import receiver. Then we will also import user. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to do from django.db.models.signals. Let's import post save. Then we import from django.dispatch receiver. Now, to set up our signal, like I said, we are going to set up a signal to create a cart whenever a new user is added. Now, to do that, all I just need to do is set up my receiver here, and inside it I will add post save, then I will also set its sender to be equals to user, not to users, so that inside this function now I will create my, let's call it create, I like to use create or update cart. Then we'll have sender as one of the parameters. Then I'll put instance. Okay, then I'll also add created. Then I will add my keywords argument, and if created, as simple as this. Then I want to do cart.objects.create, then user equals to, nope, let's do user equals to instance. Let's remove this here. Okay, so our signals has been created. So whenever a new user is created, it will automatically create a cart for them. Now, with this setup out of the way, let's now start setting up the views for our cart. Inside my views here, I'm going to create my cart view, and for this I will call it class cart view, and we'll also use generic. Then we'll use retrieve update API view. Okay, now I will use my permission classes to be is authenticated. If you're not authenticated, you should not access the cart. Then serializer cart, serializer, we have already set that up. Then for my get object, I will use get or create, so that in a situation whereby a cart has not been created, for like our normal users now, we just created this signal. So for our existing users, this cart view will also be able to handle a situation whereby they don't have any existing cart. So what I'm going to do here is to do my get object. What is my get object? I'm going to add self only, as the parameter, and inside this function I will do cart. Then I will do created equals to cart.objects.get underscore or create. We are calling on that function, so that in a situation there's no existing cart, it will go ahead and create one for us. Then set user to be equals to self.request.user, close this, and I will return cart. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to create my put for editing of the cart, because the cart will always be edited, so that whenever you add items or you decide to clear items, all those functionalities will be happening. So I will add my argument and keywords argument. Then inside this function, let's put some space here. we will have our cat, and I'm going to add self.getObject, the function we created above. Then I will do cat.items, and for this one I'm going to do request, then .data.get, and inside this add items, comma, then an empty list. Thereafter I will do cat.save, then I will return response, curly bracket success, and set it to true. Then I will also do items, then cat.items. Our cat view is ready. You can go ahead and save this. In our urs.py, you can import the cat down here. So for this, we'll use path, and I will do API/cat. Okay, close this and put comma. Then we'll do cat view.asView. Then for the name, we'll return it as cat, just like this. Okay, we can add comma so that if we have more endpoints later, we can also add them there. Okay, now our backend is ready for the cat. We can then start setting up our cat in our front end. Can close up this product.js, close the admin product edit, also close this one. Can also close the dashboard. We need to start setting up our cat in the front end. I'm going to set up my cat in such a way that it's going to be simple. I hope it's simple to you. Pay close attention to the setup, and if you have any questions, you can always ask me in the comment section. I will try my best to make you understand. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to set up my cat actions. And for these cat actions, what it is going to do for me is that it is going to help me to fetch my cat. Even before we continue, there's something I would like to set up in my settings.py for this process to be swift. Now, in our settings.py, I'm going to add the Google token headers inside our course so that we'll be able to allow any headers that's having our Google access token. I'm going to come down below here and do course, then allow underscore headers. For this, I'm going to set it to be a list, and inside this my list, I'll put default headers, and I will concatenate it, then create a list of it. Inside it, we will have the x-google-access token. Now, with this setup, we need to import this our default headers from class headers.default import default headers, just like this. Okay, so now we can save this, close the settings, then come back here to our front end and continue the setup. Now, the first thing I'm going to do in my front end is to set up my cat actions. And for these cat actions, it's going to help us to fetch our cat from our backend. We have to set up the cat actions inside our component. Okay, maybe we can just close everything that has to do with the front end for now. The backend, sorry. So we can just deal with the front end only. Now, inside my components here, I will create the cat actions.jss. This is where we are going to fetch our cat from the backend. Once I'm done with the cat actions, then we'll deal with the cat context. Please pay close attention. So if you have any questions, always ask me. I'll be willing to answer. Import API, just like that. Then we'll import our access token. Import access token. Then let's also import Google access token, all from our token. Now let me set up the function to fetch our cat items, and I'm going to start by exporting this function, and I will do then const fetch cat. Now for this, I'm going to use async arrow function. Now inside the arrow function, we will first of all set the one for our access token. Then I will set it with local storage.get item, then access token. We will also do the same for our Google access token. We'll get the Google access token. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is determine which token to use, so that in a situation whereby you're signing in with your Google account, we will use the Google access token. Okay, now to determine that, so let me just add a comment here: determine token to use. For this, what I'm going to do is to set my const headers, and inside this my const headers, I will leave it as an empty dit. Then I will then do if access token, right? Then we will set the headers dot authorization. Then we'll set it equal to backtick bearer access token. Okay, close this up. Now else if is Google access token. Okay, I also want to set the headers to be s-google-access token, which will then set to be equals to Google access token. Else then help us throw an error, no access token found. Once we have been able to fetch our access token, the next thing I'm going to now do is to fetch our cat. And to fetch our cat, I will do const response. I'm going to use await, then api.post, and I'm going to get our API URL. I think the API URL is API then /cat. Okay, just like this. Close it, put comma, Now this is wrong, so let's just do it this way. Let's get this. So when we get this, we'll set our headers. But let me just put it inside here so that we will then go ahead and return response.data, but not just data.items. The next thing we are now going to do is to set up a function that's going to help us to update our cart items. And to do that, okay, here's our function to update cart items. For this function, what I'm going to do is to do export const update. Let's call it cart, right? Update cart. And for this, we'll use async, set our cart items, use our function. Yeah, we can return the access token, which will help us to get the access token of either Google or access token from our normal users, depending on who signed in. Okay, so once we get the access token, we will also go ahead and determine the access token to use. And to do that, I will do const headers, and I'll set this to be empty dit. Then I will do if access token headers.authorization bearer access token, if else Google access token, we set the one for Google access token, else no access token found. Once this is done, we go ahead and update our cart, update the cart. Now to update the cart, we will do await put, then api.cart, then I'm setting my cart items equals to cart items, then headers. Now with this setup, we are good to go. We are already exporting this. We are also exporting the fetch cart. Now we can use these two functions we have set up here to set up our cart contest. Now to set up our cart contest, I'll go ahead and create another file. For this one, we'll call it cart contest.jss. Okay, we are making progress. There are some things we'll have to import. We'll start by importing import React. I will import the create contest from React. Then we'll also use contest from React, and we'll use effect from React. And last but not the least, I will use the reducer from React as well. Now we will go ahead and import the fetch cart function from our cart actions, then also import the update cart function from our cart action. So maybe what I can do here, instead of having this to start with, let's just use update cart like this. Yeah, update cart like that, so that it will synchronize with the way we started this one. Then change this one to be update cart. Okay, then from our cart actions. Now once we do that, we'll go ahead and create a const cart contest where we'll use the create contest from React. Thereafter, I'll go ahead and create my const cart reducer. For this, my cart reducer to be equals to state, then we'll also use action. Okay, set it as an arrow function, and inside the function, we'll first of all use switch to check if action.type. So if action.type, we will use case to set cart. Now for this set cart, what we will do is to return state, but instead of items, I can change this to be carts, right? Then we'll have the action.payload. Let's also do the same thing for the add to cart, but for this my add item here, I want it to be add to underscore cart like this. I will first of all set my const for existing product index. So I'm going to call this existing product index. I'm going to use state, then dot cart, then dot find index. You have to be extremely careful in doing this so you not make mistakes. So I'm setting for an existing cart. I'm using existing product index to do that, where I will state the item. I'm going to use arrow function to do item.id, then equals to, instead of doing item dot this, I will do action dot payload then dot id. The next thing is to then do if existing product index. Nah, this is wrong. Let me just return it and do it one after the other. Existing product index is greater than or equals to 0, right? Go ahead and set a const for the new cart. Let me set this to be inside an array. Then let's close this array, move this. Okay, now the next thing is to then do new cart equals to this existing product index dot quantity, then plus equals to action.payload dot quantity. We'll go ahead and return state cart, then set cart to new cart. Okay, we are making progress. Else return state cart, then state.cart, then action.payload. Now we are done with the one for the add to cart. The next one is to do the one for remove from cart. And for this one, I'm going to use return for my return. I'm going to do state, or just state. I don't need to add cart there. Then I will set my cart like this, state.cart.filter, then item item.id is not or equals to, let me put space, action.payload. Let's also handle the one for removing quantity. And to do that, I'll also use case, set it to remove underscore quantity, const item index. I'm going to set it to be state.cat.find index. Then item.id. Let's bring this up, equals to payload, action.payload.id. Come below. If index item is greater than or equals to 0, right? I want to set the new cat equals to state. Then yeah, let's return this. If new item, then if the new cat item dot quantity greater than 1, then the new cat item index dot minus equals to 1. So this one is going to help us to decrease the quantity by 1. So let me add this for you, decrease quantity by 1. But what I can do, instead of returning all this else here, right? When this happens, I want to return state, then cat, new cat, else. For this else, the purpose is for it to handle if quantity is 1. We want to then remove the item. So for this one, I'm going to do this, return state, then cat, state.cat.filter, then item.id is not equals to action.payload.id. So let's try to make this to look better. I can just bring this down too. Okay, let's also bring this down. So let me add a comment here. To handle if the quantity is 1, remove the item from the cart. Okay, so that is the purpose of this remove quantity. Now, the next one I'm going to set up for is the one that's going to help us to handle for quantity increase. Since we're also handling for remove quantity, let's also handle for increase quantity, right? Now, for this one, before this one, what I'm meant to do here is to return state. So this one can help us to handle if current state is not found. Okay, now for this increase quantity, what I'm going to do is to also do const. Let's return the function. Yeah. So first we will use the increase item, then state.cat.find index, then item.id is equals to action.payload.id. Then we'll check if the increase is greater than or equals to 0. Then we'll return the new cat to be state.cat. Thereafter, we'll set the new cat to be increase index.quantity plus 1 equals to 1. Then we'll return the state to be state. Then set it to be set our cat to be new cat. We'll return state handle if current state not found. Okay, before we deal with this default, I'm going to handle the one that's going to help us to clear our cat. So for this one, I'm going to set it to be clear underscore cat. For this one, we can do return state and cat to empty array. Then we can then set the default to be return state. Okay, now this function is ready. This function is going to help us to handle our cat reducer. The next thing I'm going to now do is to set our cat provider. And to set our cat provider, come up a little, set a function. I'm going to call it export const. Let's call it cat provider. We'll have a situation whereby we will have children. Set it to be arrow function const for our state. Then we'll do for dispatch, set it to be equals to use the reducer function we created. And inside the reducer function, I will add the cat provider, cat reducer. Set our cat to be an empty array. We will then go ahead to set the use effect function. Use effect. What I'm going to do is to first of all get our cat, and to do that I will do const get cat. I'm going to use async set. No, I want it to be empty parameter. Okay, inside this our get cat, I will set my const items, then I will use await, then we will do fetch cat. I'm calling the fetch cat function. When we fetch the fetch cat function, we'll go ahead and bring the dispatch. Then for the type, we will set cat, then set our payload item. So with this use effect function I'm using here, I'm using it to get our cat. When we get the cat from the fetch cat, we'll go ahead and set the dispatch to be set cat, then the payload will be items. Thereafter, below here, I can then do get cat. We can then return an empty array the way we are returning it here. Now, the next one I'm going to set is the function for adding our cat. So this one is already returning it for me. So const add to cat. Then we're also going to use async. Let's use async. Set the parameters to be items. Inside the function, we'll use dispatch and set it to be type add to cat, then payload item. But instead of using items here, I can use item. This one is meant to be item, not items, because we are adding the item to cart. below, I will use await, then I will update my cart with state.cart. Let's remove the item there, remove this. Now our cart is ready. Now let's try the remove from cart too and see. For the remove from cart, I'm going to use async again. So let's remove all of this. Parameter, I will set ID, and inside my function, I'm going to use dispatch, where I will set the type to be removed from cart, then the payload to be ID, then await update cart, I will set it to state.update. Move this one, add semicolon there. Now, the next thing is to also set the one that's going to handle remove quantity from our cart. So I'm going to do const, let me call it to remove quantity from cart. Also use dispatch, set the type to be remove quantity, then payload ID, then we'll set update cart to state.cart. Okay. Now the next one I'm going to set is the one that's going to handle the increase quantity in cart. Now for this one, I'm also going to use the ID, then set the dispatch to increase quantity, then await to be update cart. The last one we are going to set is the one that's going to clear the cart. Const clear cart. We're also using async, but this time we are not setting ID. We'll use the dispatch, set our type to be clear cart, then await update cart to be an empty array. Once we are done with all this, I will go ahead and return my cart context provider. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do now is to set up our cart. Inside the cart, we will then capture this add to cart we have set up in our cart context. Also handle the remove from cart, quantity from cart, handle the increased quantity in cart, and also deal with the clear cart. We are going to pull up everything we have done here in our cart context in our cart.js. Then we will also set up the front end part of it, the UI. We'll try to test run what we have built and see how it works. So without wasting time, let's start setting up our cart. Now we'll come back here, and inside our source and inside our component, I will create the cart.js. First, we will import React. We'll go ahead and import the use cart. You know, the name of this function we created here. Inside this place, I don't even need these children that I imported here. The only thing I need is the create context, the use context, use effect, use reducer. Now, our cart, we have created our cart reducer, and we are exporting it as use cart. Now, let me save this. We can come back here. We will import our use cart, import use cart from cart context. Then we will also import navigate from React router DOM. We're also going to set up our CSS for this. So as usual, I will do styles / we'll call it cart.css. Let's quickly set our cart up. I will use const cart, okay, just like this arrow function. Inside it, I'll first of all do the const, then state. For this state, I will do cart, right? Small letter cart, comma. Also do remove from cart. Then I will do clear cart. Nope, because all these things we are going to get them from the use cart. We'll also need the remove quantity from cart. Then we'll also import the increase quantity in cart. Everything is going to use the use cart, but let's initialize this our function here. Let me bring it down this so you guys can see. After we are done with this, the next thing I'm going to do is to set my navigate, which we are going to use to initialize our navigation. So I'll call it const use navigate. Then I will start setting all the different functions that we will need in our cart. One of them is going to handle for our remove. The next one will also handle for the clear cart, increase quantity in cart, decrease quantity in cart. Then we will also handle checkout, but we will come back for the checkout. Maybe I can just skip that and just focus on the cart. When we are done with the cart, we will start dealing with the checkout process. Okay, let me handle the first one for our cart, handle remove, which we will use the remove from cart function we have created inside our cart context here. This is the function and the type is remove from cart. That is what we are calling on inside this our handle remove. The next one I'm going to handle is the one for clearing our cart, const clear cart. Okay, maybe what I can do is to call it handle so we can be in the same pace with what we are doing with the handle remove. I can call it handle clear cart. The next one is the one that's going to handle for increasing of quantity in our cart, const handle increase quantity. This one for our clear cart, we don't need ID, but we need ID for this one because when we are clearing the cart, that means we are clearing everything. So here I will set ID as the parameter, and inside this one I will return the increase quantity in cart, then also set the ID here. Now let's do the one for the decrease, handle decrease quantity. The same process, ID, then remove quantity from cart. Okay, the next thing I'm meant to handle is the one for our checkout, but since we are not setting up the checkout yet, we can let that slide and come back to it later on. So if cat.length is equals to 0. I want it to return for me a p tag. Let's use p tag. Your cat is empty. Okay, this is meant to be brackets, not curly bracket. Let's go ahead and return our HTML. Let me put bracket here, and inside here, I would have said let me return what my tab line is showing me, but let me bring this up and let's write from scratch. The first thing we are going to do is have div, but for this div, I'm going to add a class name to be cat-container, and inside this div, I'm going to return a hedge one. For the hedge one, I'm going to call it to be your cat. Thereafter, I will add another div. Let me add another class name here, call it to be cat items. Inside this div, I will go ahead and do this. Yeah, so cat.map, but instead of product here, what I can do is to return this to be item, right? Close this bracket again. Then all these things that is showing me product here, I want it to be item. So let's change all these ones to be item.id. Then for this image, we are returning item.image. Auth is item.name. Maybe what I can do to make this to look better, let me bring the source down, indict, then bring my auth down. Then below, I will add a style. For the style, I will set my width to be 100 ps, comma. Then I will set height to be also 100 ps. Add object fit cover. Now for this my cat item details, I'm going to change this to info because that's what I have in my CSS. Now let's also change these product names here to be item.name. Then for the price, we are having item.price. But what I can do for this my price is I can add strong here. Then for this strong, I can place this price inside the strong. Then item.price, maintain it. Let's also do the same for the quantity. Move the quantity inside the strong. Then item.quantity. Now for the button here on click, increase should come first, while decrease should come next. Okay, put this here. But let's change all of this to also be item, not product. I'm making progress. Now what I can do is for this one, I can add a class name to be increase button. Let me bring this down so you guys can see it better. Let's bring this one down here. Change this to be increase, then dash btn. Let's also do the same for the decrease. Class name decrease dash btn. Okay, now for the remove, we also follow the same practice. Class name, let's put remove dash btn. Okay, so let's come up here. I should remove this one, but here I should add one more bracket. Okay, now our cat is almost ready, but the next thing I'm going to do is come below here and I will add another div. For this div, I'm going to add a class name to be my cat actions. Remember, we set up these cat actions here. Now we are going to capture them inside this our cat.js. Now for this my cat actions, what I'm going to do is put a button. For the button, I'm going to set an onClick. Inside the onClick will handle clear cat. Then let me add a class name. I will put clear cat dash btn. You can add clear cat here. Let's also do the one for our total. Now for the total, I'm going to set a p tag, and inside the p tag, I will add strong. Right now, inside my strong, I will add the total, then colon. I will come here and put space $, and I will set my cat dot reduce, and inside it, I will add total, then comma item. Close this. Use arrow function and do total plus then item dot price multiply by item dot quantity, comma, then put 0. Close this, then also close the curly bracket. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to now add is the one that's going to proceed to checkout. Since we do not have our checkout set up yet, I will just add this as proceed to checkout. We'll come back to this when we have set up our checkout. Proceed to checkout. Add the class name checkout. Okay, go ahead and export our cat. Now we can come back to our app.js to import this our cat. I believe we do not have any error, but if there is, we will debug and fix it along the way. Come to our app.js and I will import my cat. Import cat. Can come down here and import our cat. Now what I can do is to set our is authorized inside this cat so that it is only accessible to authenticated user. That means inside this our element here, I will do is authorized cat. If not, navigate us back to login. Okay, so with this setup here, our CAT will be only available to authenticated users. So we can go ahead and save this now. Now let's open up our navbar.jss so we can update it to have like an icon of our CAT inside so that we can use it to access our CAT and also change the numbers of what happens there whenever a product is added to our CAT. Come here, then I will do import the use CAT. We have already set up our is authorized for logout. I will then set up a state that's going to use our CAT. To do that, I will do const state. For this, I will set it to be equals to use CAT. Thereafter, I will create another const for our CAT, which I will set to be state.cat. If not, I want it to return it to an empty array. So what this is going to do is to fall back to an empty array if cat is undefined. That is the purpose of setting what I did here. Now, inside our nav, under this nav bar menu right, where we have the dashboard icon, I can add another list for our cat. What I will do is add another li. For this li, let me add a class name to be cat-icon, and inside this one we'll add link. For the link, is going to have access to this our cat, but I'm not just going to set this up. I think I can just even leave it like this. Just leave it like this. But what I can do is I can put this inside a span. Let's bring this down and like this, then add a span here. Inside this span, can move this to it. I don't need to show this cat here, just the cat.length. I can add a class name here as cat-count. Go ahead and save this. Now we can open up this our home page and refresh. Failed to import. Okay, now let's come back. We need to now set up this our cat.css that we have created here inside our styles folder. Back here, let's close these components. Inside styles folder, I will create another CSS, cat.css, and I will paste my cat inside it. Save. Now if you come back here, you can refresh and see some error. Let's inspect and see what's going on. Cannot the structure property state of use state as it is undefined. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to our cat contest. Let's see what we have there. Let's cross check it one after the other to make sure there is no problem. Okay, even before we deal with this one, let's start from the cat actions. Let's try to debug from there. Okay, so from this our fetch our cat, I'm doing api.post. What I'm meant to do here is get. So I'm going to change this to api.get first. Thereafter we do response.data.items. Okay, now let's go to our cat contest. Payload. We did the same thing for add to cart, where we are setting our existing product index to be state.cart.find index. We did the same thing for our remove from cart, where we are setting it to be state.cart.filter. We handle the next one for our remove quantity, where we are setting the const item index to be state.cart.find index. And we are checking if it is greater than or equals to 0, then we'll set our new cart to be state.cart. Okay. Okay, so from everything I have seen here, can't seem to figure out why our cat is not yet working. Now let's cross-check our cat.jss and see if there's any problem there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is inside, I forgot to do that. Inside is our product.js. We'll also need to bring cat to it because now we have a cat. And to do that, we'll import also the use cat from our cat contest. Then what I will do here is, aside from having the error message and the set error we have here, I'm going to set another const that's going to handle our add to cat. Now the next thing is to then set our authorization process here. So what I will do is import my use authentication from my auth. Okay, then I will also import navigate from React router DOM. The next thing I will set here is my const for is authorized. I'm going to set this one is authorized use authentication. So the purpose of this is to check if a user is authorized, because for you to be accessing our cart, that means you're an authenticated user. Then we'll also set the one for const navigate, use navigate. Thereafter, every setup I have here can work. But what I would then do is to handle adding products to cart. To handle adding products to cart, what I would do, let me add a comment, handle adding products to the cart. To handle this, what I would do is to set my const handle add to cart. Let's see what it is returning. So what it is returning is that inside this handle add to cart, we are setting our product as a parameter. Then I'm checking if is authorized. But instead of initializing it, let me do it this way. Let's do if is not authorized. Maybe I should even change the logic of this thing. Let's try to do it in a better way. Do I have toast installed here? Okay. So what I will do, if it's not authorized, I want to be redirected back to the login. Now let's close this up and handle our else. So for my else, what I would do is I would then set my const item, which I would then set to be product. Then for a quantity, we will start with 1, which we can then handle increase based on the cart actions and what we have done in our cart contest. So let me just add a comment here. Default to 1 item. Once we set our const item this way, I will then go ahead and call on the add to cart function. Then I will set it to be item. Okay. Now let me show my toast message. Now for this, I will call on the toast.sources. But instead of doing it this way, what I will do, let's remove everything here and do it better. So I will use a backtick. Then I will set my product.name, right? Added to cart. Let's set it this way. Then I will put comma here. Then inside this toast, I will add the position, but instead of absolute, let me add it to be top right. I will add auto close to be 3000, then hide progress bar false, close on click through, then pause on hover through, then draggable through, then progress we can set it to be undefined. Now with this process, what I can then do is inside this place we have our add to cart button. I will add on click. What I will do is to have an arrow function and call on the handle add to cart, handle add to cart, set the product inside the parameter. Product. We can save this up and let's go back home and see. So if we look at this function again, in our cart contest, can cross check the add to cart. Okay, yeah, this should be add to cart this way, because that's the way I'm setting it in my switch here, add to cart. Save. Now if we come back in my main.jss, something like that, in my source here, we need to wrap our cart provider with our app.js. So this main.js, we need to remove this react.street mode and change it to be wrapped with our cart provider. This is why our use cart is showing as none. So what I'm going to do is inside here, I'm going to import the cart provider we have in our cart context. As you can see, we are exporting this and we can import it inside our main.js and use it to wrap our app component. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is to import cart provider from cart context. Then I'll go ahead and remove this react.street mode to be cart provider now. Also go ahead, let me copy this, then remove this react.street mode to capture it with the cart provider. Now if we save and go back here, you can see that our code has returned back to normal, but we are still having some issues. Now we are having a situation whereby our cart is showing us unauthorized because probably our access token is not being set properly. So let me refresh this and see. Okay, as you can see, we now have our cart response showing here and the item is showing empty and every details. This is the other console.log that I was doing. Now we can try to see if we can add this product to cart. Let's see, iPhone added to cart. Okay, close this. As you can see here, it has changed to be 1. And if I open it, you can now see we are seeing our cart, your cart. If I try to increase, okay, I just decreased. Now let's come back and add another one, add to cart. Close this, open it. Now let's increase. So you can see as we are increasing, our price is changing. We can go ahead and clear. Now our cart is empty. Now if I refresh this page, you'll see that we now have YouTube's cart, which is showing as empty in our backend. Okay, now let's come back again. Let me add this product, remove this. Let's view from our cart here. I can decide to remove and our cart is still be empty. If I open up this cart again. It will be showing this because we did not clear it. Now, if I go ahead and refresh this, the product will show again, and I can go ahead and clear. When I clear and I refresh this one, it will be showing me as empty. Okay, so now we are able to add products to carts. The next step we are going to now take is to check out this product, proceed to checkout. As you can see, when we click on something, it's not doing anything. We can decrease, can remove, everything is working as planned. But now we need to deal with our checkout. So in the next video, we will deal with the checkout, handle our payment gateway, and wrap up this video. If there's any other thing we will need to do, we will do it once we are done with the checkout. So see you guys in the next video.